What's going on, YouTubers? Prof Sales coming at you with a long overdue video. And we're going to talk about being a new reseller tonight. Maybe you're a new reseller. Maybe you've heard of eBay and Amazon. You're thinking, I want to sell some things online and make a few bucks. So I thought we would jump on tonight and talk about that very issue. So thank you for logging on tonight. This is a live show going on. If you're watching this on the replay, you can leave a question or comment. And of course, if you're watching this live, you can leave a question or comment. So we jump online every now and then on this channel these days. And I'm glad you're here. So the room's filling up a little bit. In case you don't know, this channel is about being an entrepreneur and about reselling, selling online, e-commerce sites, and just having, a nice little corner of the internet here all to ourselves. I've got the heater running, so if you hear a sound, let me know, and I will turn it down. It's just a little bit chilly in this room, but I'm glad that you guys are joining me tonight. Kind of an impromptu show. I didn't really schedule or anything. So we'll let a few people filter into the room and just talk about this topic a little bit, see what everybody's thoughts are. We'll kind of try to delve into, what you'd want to think about if you're thinking about selling on eBay or Amazon. It could be other e-commerce platforms too. I just use those two because they're the biggest two. And yes, Adam, I'm alive. He said in the chat, just thanks. I just ate some oatmeal of all things. Go figure. But man's got to eat, right? So how's everybody doing out there? I hope you guys are doing well. Haven't seen you in several weeks, and it's fourth quarter. And this video is being created, so hopefully you guys are in full swing and you're just really killing it with your business and your sales and so on. I hope you are. We've been finishing up some things for prepping and shipping, as well as sourcing other items. And I'll fill you in on some of that as we go through the show a little bit too, just what we've been doing. David said he's just installed the Poshmark app. Nice. How's that going, David? Hopefully well. I haven't really sold on Poshmark, but there's definitely a lot of people out there who are big believers. He also says he's thinking about doing Amazon, but selling stuff on eBay so far. Yeah, there seems to be like a progression of people who go from like eBay to Amazon. I don't know if it goes quite as much in the other direction, it seems like, but I just want to talk about this question. It's been on my mind of late. If you're brand new, should you sell on eBay or Amazon if you want to become a reseller? Or if you, I think even saying becoming a reseller is probably, that's probably taking it too far. Just if you're going to resell anything, which one should you pick? There's people who want to do this for a living. And then there's other people who just want to make a few bucks on the side, right? Like you're like, well, I got this crap sitting around my house and I really want to sell it and make a little money and get rid of some stuff. That's a little different. I'm talking about somebody who wants to basically take this on as at least as a part-time endeavor. You're going to keep doing it, maybe not full-time hours. You're not going to necessarily quit your job, but you're going to start doing this on a regular basis. Or maybe you have the desire to go full time and just be a reseller all the time and just, go out and find things and buy things to flip. So that's kind of who I'm speaking to, not the hobby person who just every once in a great while will sell something. Hank, good to see you too. The wrench is here. It really sounds so weird to say. Let's see. Thank you guys for logging on tonight. I know it was sort of impromptu, but I just decided I was going to do it about 10 minutes ago. So, hey, sometimes these are the best shows. I'm sorry, somebody was texting me about some books. I've been in book land today. I don't know about you guys. All right, so let's delve into this a little bit. And if you're in the chat, go ahead and let me know if you're new to reselling, like we'll say like 6 months or less is new. Probably good a definition as any. Let me know in the chat. And if you are, let me know like why you decided to sell on the platform you did. Like what was your, maybe like in one sentence, like why did you pick eBay? Why did you pick Amazon? Maybe you picked some other platform. Why did you pick that one? What was your thought process? because I think a lot of people who decide they want to start selling things on a part-time or full-time basis, they kind of jump in, head first, and there's nothing really that wrong with it. But sometimes they find after 6 months down the road, a year down the road, they're not really getting what they thought they would get out of it. Whatever it is they thought they're going to get out of it. Maybe they thought they're going to be able to find a lot of stuff. Maybe they thought they're going to make a lot of money. Maybe they thought it was going to be easier. Maybe they thought, their stuff would sell through quickly. I don't know. I'm always curious what people's motivation is, because I know if you're out in the community a lot of times and I see somebody who's a reseller and they see me, I always ask them, or I've gotten in a habit of asking, well, what do you sell? But maybe the better question I should ask is, why do you sell, right? Like, why are you doing this? Like, what's your reason? So the question is, if you're new, should you sell on eBay or Amazon? So I guess we should talk about for a moment, what's the difference between eBay and Amazon? What's, what kind of are the differences and what you would maybe consider if you were brand new? Adam said he was overwhelmed by Amazon, which he wanted to do originally, so he did eBay. Now I'm trying to change things up. Yeah. It's odd you say that, Adam, because sometimes I find eBay overwhelming for a different reason. So yeah, and you'll hear that too. But so eBay and Amazon are the two big e-commerce platforms. They're the two big, 800-pound gorillas in the marketplace. And they have some similarities, but they have some unique differences too. On eBay, you create a separate individual listing. You usually are using your own photographs to do that. And eBay, they all have photographs. You're allowed to put, your own descriptions, your own pricing, and each individual item that's listed on eBay is different, quote unquote, from every other item, simply because it's a different listing. I create a listing to sell, this blue cup, and you create a listing to sell this blue cup, and maybe I've got 3 pictures of mine, you got 4 pictures of yours. I talk about the dimensions of the cup, maybe you don't, but ultimately eBay would see that as 2 separate listings. eBay requires you to inventory your items or keep them at your house or your warehouse or your garage or wherever you're putting them. It requires you to converse with customers from time to time when people ask questions. You have to package things up and ship them, which is all decided when you list the item, how that's going to work. You can, of course, you can do auctions, which eBay was famous for so many years, or you can do buy it nows in terms of how you price it. So those are just some of the things that how eBay is set up. Amazon has some similarities, but on Amazon, for instance, if I was selling this blue cup and you were selling this blue cup, we would both list against the same, what they call an ASIN, an Amazon Stock Identification Number, which just means it identifies this item. And if you want to sell it, you list for the most part under that ASIN. And I'm under it and you're under it. And there might be just one photograph that's like a stock photograph of the manufacturer of it, but we're all listing against this one ASIN. It's all the same item. It's one item, but several sellers. And I can still put things about the condition in there. Maybe yours is very good. Maybe mine is like new, whatever. I can change my pricing. You can change your pricing. We don't have to take photographs. The big difference with Amazon is that I can send this item into Amazon's warehouses and they can store it for me. And then they can ship it for me once someone buys it. All for a fee, of course, right? I mean, just like anything else. It doesn't, nothing, you don't get something for nothing, but that's a distinct difference between eBay and Amazon. They call it Fulfilled by Amazon, FBA. So, or I can sell it from home too. I don't have to send it in. It's totally up to me for the most part. So those are kind of like some of the big difference between those. And there's some different fees between them, but basically both platforms allow you to take electronic payments, credit card payments, debit card payments. There's options for them to handle the processing for that and fees. I mean, it's like everything else, right? But because of those few differences between them, it totally changes how you might approach it as a new reseller. So let's talk about that. The truth says I use Facebook, Amazon, eBay, and prefer eBay. However, lately it's been a battle with the glitches and scammers. DJ says I started reselling on eBay to get rid of, turn up my brightness, get rid of 6 cricket cartridges that I bought that never used, paid 25 bucks each and sold for $65 to $129 and got hooked. Nice. So a couple different reasons are why people chose one or the other. So let's say you're brand new to all this and you want to sell on one of these. The first question I would ask you probably is, and I don't know how many you've asked this question, it's like, well, why do you want to sell your items anyway? And I guess the reason a lot of people might give is, well, I want to make money. But there's other reasons too. Maybe you want to start a little side business and it's kind of cool. Maybe you need space in your home or wherever the items are at. Maybe the items have been, maybe they're a source of frustration for you. Like you're like, I just got to get rid of this junk. You know, I mean, it can be all those different reasons. But depending on what you're selling and why you're selling it, that's going to kind of gear you, I think, towards, if you're new, which one you should do. Because if you just want to sell a bunch of one-off items, like if you've got one of these cups you want to sell, I don't know why you want to sell this cup, but whatever. If you had just one cup to sell, I don't think it really matters which platform you go on that much. You know, you may even just sell it locally, like on Facebook or OfferUp or something like that. But we're talking about, again, somebody wants to be like part-time or even full-time in this gig. Say you want to sell a lot of these cups, right? So now it comes down to, well, if you want to start a business selling cups, then we need to think about a few things, like how are you getting these cups? Are you getting them direct from the manufacturer? Are you buying these cups at yard sales or thrift stores or something like that? Did you just have a big, huge supply of them for some reason from some event or something in the past that you didn't, you just accumulated them all? Are you going to be able to get more of these cups? Are you going to get them in different colors? Are you going to get them in different sizes or with different things written on them, right? These are all questions you'd want to answer first, because if you want to sell these in bulk versus just selling them as individual, that could change which one you sell on, which platform. Because if I have 1,000 blue cups and that's all I have, and they said the exact same thing, they're the same size, same cup, it's pretty easy to create a listing on either platform and just sell them. Then it comes down to, you know, which one do I think maybe I can make more on or sell them faster, which we'll talk about that in a moment. But if you just got 1,000 of the same cup and you got room for it, and it doesn't really matter. Now, on the other hand, if you have 1,000 cups, but they're in 15 different colors, but you've got, you know, 100 of this one and 80 of this one and 40 of that one, that gets a little more complex. Now you have all these variations of the cups, and it's going to get tricky over where you sell these, because you're going to have to make different listings for those. Some people in this chat would probably say, well, you could sell them on eBay as a variant. You could say, I got this cup and I got it in blue and I got it in red and I got it in green and I got it in black and I got it in white and I got it pink, whatever. But I found that's tricky, because now you need photos of all those. Or variants on eBay sometimes work accurately and other times they don't. The other hand, on Amazon, you would have different variants as well, all under the same ASIN. Like you would pull up this cup and it would say, hey, it comes in all these different colors, which seems very simple if you're a new reseller. But the tricky part about that is I've learned in other categories, is it's hard to tell which ones will sell, because the sales rank is probably only going against one of the colors. It's only telling you, Amazon uses something called sales rank to tell you how quickly or slowly something is selling. The better the rank, the best rank you can have is a 1, the second best is a 2, and so on. As you get higher and higher, it sells less and less. But because of a variant listing where you'd have a bunch of different color cups, it would be hard to know which color sold the most. You can make some guesses, but it's a little tricky to figure that out sometimes by just looking at the listing. So if you only have one cup I'd sell it locally. If you had 10 cups, maybe you bundle them together and throw them on eBay and take a few photos of all. If you have 1,000 cups, you still might want to select Amazon. This goes back to like, what do you have inventory of? What can you get inventory of? Because Amazon is going to be a little easier to move things in volume for the most part, but you don't know how fast they're going to sell, just because, like I said, that sales rank question is kind of tough to get a handle on, especially when you got a bunch of different colors on the same item, which I didn't know that until a few months ago. Actually, I learned that with shoes. You can see how well a shoe sells by the sales rank, but you don't know how well each color and size within that, all the variants, they call it parent and child listings, how well they sell. That gets a little trickier to pull that info out. So if you're a brand new seller and you're selling these cups, you need to think about, how many of them do I have? What colors do I have? Can I get more of them? Because here's a great thing about both of these platforms. If you make a listing for this blue cup and you have 1,000 of them, and then you're about to sell out and you get more of them, you don't have to do anything. You just go in and just change the quantity and say, well, I had 1,000 and now I got 1,000 more. You don't have to change the listing. You don't have to take new photos. That's something you can do on both of them, which I think is really cool. So you've already done the work one time. So now it becomes very passive almost on selling these. Like, you just rinse and repeat. And maybe you're only making, a little bit of money on each one, but you don't have to keep going back and doing more work on it, which I think is always nice. Like that really is where I've learned you can really blow up your sales per item, because now you've put in time one time and you just repeat it over and over and over. So we've talked about like inventory and supply if you're a new reseller, but what about money? Well, here's where it really gets interesting, because the conventional wisdom says if you sell something on Amazon and you sell the same item on eBay, on average, across categories, not in every case, but on average, that item is going to sell for more on Amazon than it is on eBay, on average. Now, there's always exceptions, but we're just saying in general, that's true. And I have found that to be true. That tends to be true, my personal experience. I've heard it from other people, and there tends to be some belief there that that's accurate. It has to do with, probably on Amazon, people are competing on price because they're all listing against that same item. So it's very clear what something cost on Amazon, but it's not clear what it cost on eBay. When I was selling a lot of jeans, I could sell, Levi 515 size 8 regular boot cut, and it could be, I could go on there and research that item, and you might see some that sold for $23, and then you might see some that sold for $2. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to pricing, and then there's a bunch in between, right? And then you're like, well, what do I price it at? Well, that's a great question. Amazon, you can see similar things, but ultimately Amazon, because it shows you the way it shows you a listing, it shows you the condition all against the same item. So you can go in and say, all right, this item in new, these 5 sellers are selling it new, and it's this range. And if it's like new, it's this one. And if it's good, it's this one, or very good, it's this one, and so on and so on. It's a little easier to figure out the pricing and sell through on Amazon than it is on eBay. eBay is very confusing that way to a new seller, because each listing is its own individual thing. It's not like you're all against the same listing. So if you're new, it's very, that tended to be, when I was selling a lot of jeans and people would send me messages about jeans. I don't get as many these days because I don't really sell that many jeans anymore, but I would get a lot of messages about jeans. And that was by far the #1 question. I've got this pair of jeans, and is it legit, and is it authentic? But I've got this pair of jeans, what should I price it at? That was by far. And I'm like, price should really, it's a commodity. Like, price should not be something you should have to really think about a lot on a platform. And if you're selling commodity type items like jeans or books or CDs, like things that are not really unique, that much. eBay can be difficult to figure out the pricing on just because of that. If you're selling things that are the same item, like if it's a brand new cup, eBay's a lot easier to figure out the pricing on it. Usually the pricing sort of clusters. Amazon tends to have more new items on it, so just by that default, it tends to be a little more compact, the pricing. But a lot of resellers, especially new resellers, get super caught up in the pricing of their items. And I find myself still falling in that trap. I don't know about you guys listening, but I think probably some of you guys do too. You get caught up in this mindset of, I don't know what the price is at because there's this price over here and this price over there. And finally, you just, put your hands over your eyes and hit some numbers and hit enter and hope it works. And you hope it sells. Because it can be confusing, and it is confusing because the reality is the old saying is true. What is something worth? Well, it's worth whatever somebody will pay for it. And when you go back and you look at sales data on eBay or Amazon, it can be tough to figure out where to price something sometimes. Like you still end up with just sort of a range. But I think if you're selling commodity items, you're probably going to find it easier to price them on Amazon. If you're selling one-off, more unique type items, you're probably going to find it a little easier on eBay, would be my guess overall. So again, it goes back to what you're selling and what platform you should choose, because in terms of pricing, because that pricing question, like once you get it down, it's going to change some over time, but it's not going to be drastic changes. Like if this cup for the last 2 years has sold for, I don't know, $1.99, it's not likely that all of a sudden tomorrow people are going to start racing the bottom and selling it for 49 cents. It's possible, but not likely. Nor is it likely next week it's going to be selling for $5.99. Like it just doesn't work that way. Like prices change over time. And now for hot toys and things like that, that's different. But like when it's more just sort of everyday, everyday use items, it's not going to change that much over time. So pricing is something you need. If you're a new reseller, you need to consider again, like what it is you're selling, I think, to figure out if the pricing, how to price it. And in terms of the platform you want, I tend to think one-offs and things like that work better on eBay, whereas more commodity items work better on Amazon that are the same. If there's a listing of this on Amazon and there's 47 people selling it new, they're not going to be that far apart in price for the most part, those 47 people. There might be little differences here and there. Now, if it's something, there are these programs called repricers that can change your pricing on Amazon given the criteria you put in. Sometimes those can create some weird arbitrary numbers that don't really make sense. But ultimately, those tend to resolve themselves over time. And ultimately, this is probably all going to sell, right around the same price. All those sellers on this item are probably going to be within 10, 20% of each other. They're not going to be a huge difference in price. Just because of the way the platform works. You're all listing the same item. It's no different to the end buyer. You can't really impute any more value in this item because they're all new cups. So, but now if this is a one-off special beer stein from 1927 or something, that's different. That pricing is more subjective because there's not going to be that many of those that sell in a given month or year or what have you. So now you can start to really get your pricing, and try to, figure out what maybe somebody is likely to pay for it. Which, by the way, if you want to take offers on things, eBay has a nice advantage there. They do allow people to make offers on your items. So they can message you and say, they can message you even if you don't have best offer on. They can message you and say, hey, would you take less? And you can do it. Or if you have best offer on, they can actually send you an offer and say, hey, will you take this? And then you can haggle back and forth, which is always kind of nice. So that's a little bit about the pricing part. Then it comes down to, I think for a new reseller, which platform you should sell on. Which one is easier to make sales on? That's the $64,000 question, right? Where are you more likely to be successful in your selling career? And this is a tough one to answer because I know a lot of people out there have a lot of strong opinions about which platform is better for, whatever. And I get the reasons for those strong opinions. But this is where I've changed my viewpoint over the last, year or two. I think if you were brand new and you wanted to sell parts, like you knew a little bit about reselling, maybe you watch some YouTube videos like here on this channel, shameless plug, but maybe you'd watch some videos on YouTube on this channel or other channels. Maybe you had joined some Facebook groups or you knew somebody who was a reseller, whatever. And you're like, I think I want to start selling. And you're like, well, where should I start selling? I think in a vacuum, and this is going to sound to some of you, you're probably not going to like it. I would start with Amazon. And I'll tell you why I would do that. I think Amazon, if you want to do this on a part-time basis or full-time basis, maybe eventually, I think Amazon forces you to view this more as a commodity driven business, if that's the right word. I think eBay, because of the setup for it, it hinders you from doing that. eBay is a little bit more time consuming to list. You don't get the scale that you get on Amazon. Because you can't warehouse items at eBay, it is much more difficult to grow a large commodity-based business. Now, if you want to sell just one-offs all the time, eBay is your platform. No doubt about it. No argument there. However, remember I said this is for people who want to become part-time at this or even maybe full-time. I don't think most people, and this is my opinion, I have no stat to back this up, but I don't think most people in the reselling community who start out selling one-offs on eBay and want to become a part-time reseller or full-time reseller, I think most of those people will fail at that. And what I mean by fail is not that they didn't try hard or they were, anything like that. I think the drudgery of having to constantly find items that are worth your time to list and worth your time to sell, because this is what we got to remember, guys. You're going to throw 100 items up, and in a given year or a given 6 months or whatever time frame you want, not all 100 are going to sell. That's rare. That would be very rare for you to throw up 100 items and sell. And by that, I mean sell for a profit that rewards you for the time and energy and capital you put into that item. So let me just say that too. I think most people who sell on eBay and start off with one-offs, I think you're putting yourself at the risk of becoming that type of seller forever. And you will find it very difficult to scale up to even a part-time basis and certainly a full-time basis with that model. And it's just very difficult to do that because you will end up, if you decide to niche down to a few niches, you've got a better chance. If you always sort of stay wide and you're always like looking for anything that'll make you money, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And I don't know that you will be able to find enough fast-moving, profitable items. And by fast, I mean fast enough for you. That means something different to all of us. I just think most people who start out that way will not be able to sustain it, and you'll fail. And that's not a knock on you. And I would fail at that as well. I have no doubt about it. And there are people who do it. There's people who have been successful at it, but they are rare. They are not the rule. They're the exception. And maybe that's always the way it is. Maybe there's always ever going to be the exception. I don't know. But Apple isn't a successful technology company because they sell iPhones and board games or camera cases or furniture. They don't go wide. Intel doesn't go wide. You know, these companies that they find some niches they're good in, and then they get into them, they understand them, they've created them in some cases, and then they scale them up to whatever level they want to scale them up to. You can do the same thing, just on a smaller level. It's no different. You can scale it up to a level that works for you. But I think when you constantly stay sort of wide, and like eBay kind of entices you to do something, I don't know if that's the right word. And by wide, like, even people are wide within a category. You know, I sold pre-owned clothing, but it was mainly jeans, because I found myself, when you started getting down to shirts and pants and shorts and tank tops and swimsuits and belts and hats and socks and shoes, and I mean, you end up having to try to be an expert in so many things, and not even an expert, just a educated novice even, and it was very difficult to do. And I just think you'll fail if you do that. So I wouldn't do that. I would start with Amazon right off the bat, and because you can go out, and this is the other beautiful thing about Amazon for a new seller. If you go out, let's say you start with the way a lot of people start, with retail arbitrage, which just means you buy something at a retail price that sells for more on Amazon, not a retail price. You buy something typically new for a price that you can sell it for more than on Amazon to still make a good profit. Let's say I go to the store and I find this cup, and this cup is selling for 49 cents at my local store. This is a terrible example. Let's say I go and find this tape gun. That's better. Let's say I go and I find this tape gun at clearance price for $1 at some warehouse, I don't know, maybe some hardware store in your hometown is going out of business, and they got 50 of these bad boys marked down to $1. And these sell, I think they sell for around $14 maybe on Amazon, maybe a little less than that, maybe they're 13. But if you put this into the calculator and you figure out, well, if I buy this for $1 and I sell it for 13, I'm still going to net $4 on every single one. Amazon, and that's even if you send it into Amazon and let them warehouse it, Amazon allows you to very quickly scale up by buying all 50 of those. You don't just buy one, because you're going to find a new item, and there's likely to be more than one there. Whereas when you go out to find like pre-owned items, like if you go to buy clothing, for instance, excuse me a minute, I had to shut that down. If you go to buy pre-owned clothing, you're only going to find one. Like if I go to look for this shirt, I'm probably just going to find one. I can't scale it. Oh, well, I found one. I got to take it home and list it and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, if I sell it, maybe I make great profit, but it's only one. I can replicate this over and over and over and over on Amazon, and I can send it to them if I want, have them warehouse it, then package it up and ship it to the customer, and deal with the customer service on the back end. I don't have to deal with that. So many resellers forget that when you are spending time shipping something, answering questions, packaging something, talking to customers, you know, all this time, every second you spend talking to a customer, you're losing hourly rate. It's necessary, but when you're doing it, you're losing money. You're losing money because now you're putting more and more and more and more time into that item, and you're not going to make any more from it. The customer's not going to say, oh, I'm really glad you answered my question. I'll pay you $2 more. That's not going to happen. So someone says they want that tape gun. This tape gun is awesome, by the way. I don't remember even who makes this one. It might be, it says Scotch Tape 3M. That might be who it is. It's not Scotch tape on it. It is a very good tape gun. But every second you put more time into an item, guys, you lose money. So for the new seller, if I've got a $50 sourcing budget and I can find 50 of these, I might just go buy them all, assuming they'll sell through in a reasonable amount of time. I just think that it's so much easier to scale to whatever level you want as a part-time or full-time reseller on Amazon versus eBay. Like the scalability factor cannot be overstated. It really can't. It's way too many because this is what happens when people start on eBay and they want to start scaling up their business, or they're complaining like, I only made $100 on eBay last month. Okay. Here's what all of us gurus here on YouTube, I just threw myself in there with whomever, insert your favorite YouTuber here, including me. So here's what all of us would tell you. Oh, you just need to list more items. Just list a bunch more. Oh, you only made $100? Well, that's twice as many items. You'll make 200. List 10 times. Okay. Even if that's true, that you can list 2 times as many items, make twice as much money, or 5 times as many items, make 5x as much money. Even if that's true, which by the way, it really isn't, but let's assume that it is for a moment. Do you have 2x the time? Do you have 5x the time to list them? 10x? I doubt it. So when you're dealing with all those little one-offs over and over and over, your ability to scale is limited by the amount of time and energy you have always, which is finite, right? Those things are both finite, especially the time one. And even though you're going to make more money overall, you're not making any more per item because you're still having to list every single item a lot of times when you do all these one-offs. So I just think that if you want to grow and grow quickly, Amazon's a better starting place because of the structure of it. You're listing against an ASIN, because of their ability to take the warehousing and customer service and packing and shipping piece off your table. I estimated when I did a lot of jeans, it was taking me on average, I think we got the photos down to like 3 or 4 minutes per jean at one point, which is really fast, by the way, but we were really good at it. And then the listing part was taking about 1.5 to 2 minutes. So for every pair of jeans I got up, I was spending 5 to 6 minutes on it to get it listed and photographed. And that was operating at peak capacity. Then throw in probably another minute or so on average, probably closer to 2 minutes, to pull the pair of jeans, bring it down here, package it up, put the label on, drop it in the mail. I mean, that took another couple minutes. So every pair of jeans was taking like 7 or 8 minutes. So no matter how fast I went, I could only do about 8, 7, 8, maybe 9 items the most in an hour. It didn't matter how fast that was it. Like that was the capacity. And I don't think anybody can do them much faster when you're doing all those single one-off items like that. We came up with every efficiency you could, and the workflow, and doing the same shots every time with the camera, and exactly how to transfer the photos, and using templates. I mean, we did all that stuff, and we couldn't do it any faster. And you won't be able to either if you're a new seller or an old reseller. Sorry if I just called some of you old resellers. I feel like I'm an old reseller. But you can't scale that type of business to a very, not even a high level, like even like an intermediate level. It just isn't doable. Like this list, just put up more and more listings, which by the way, depletes your capital if you're not selling through quick enough, which is a whole nother discussion. So eventually you're running out of money, and you're running out of time, and you're running out of energy. And I just think for that reason, in terms of the scalability, I don't think you can do it on eBay with one-offs. Now, if you're listing quantity items like this, so you're more of an Amazon type model, so to speak, sure. If you can keep getting these or something like this in quantity, and you list one of these, but you got a quantity of 10 or a quantity of 20, or even better, you can get another 10, you can get another 20 anytime you want, then do it. But I don't think that's how most people start on eBay, because they don't, it doesn't have that reputation that that's how you should start. Oh no, you should just go out and buy a bunch of crap for 50 cents an item or a quarter an item or whatever, and then list it. Back like 2 years ago, we had this challenge we started. We were going to try to get 5,000 jeans listed, pre-owned jeans, none of them new. And I started down the road to doing it. And, I started building my listings and, refining all those processes. It was like 2 years ago. And I got to a point where I realized, like, this is doable, but I don't want to do it because the time and energy to do it, like I would have had to have hired a part-time person, maybe even two, honestly, or had those people do the listing. Like there was no easy way I could do it. I just ran out of time. It wasn't a matter of efficiencies or working harder or this or that. It's like, how do you even get enough items to replenish what you're selling each week? When you've got to go get, you know, if you're selling through at like even 10% of your inventory every month, that's 500 pair of jeans every month you got to go find. 500 pair. Let me tell you something. Finding 500 pair of jeans is not an inconsequential amount. And you're not going to find them that quickly, even if you're selling them really cheap. Which, by the way, if you're selling really cheap, you're not making a lot of profit on them. So you're not really valuing your time when you do that. I realized that like having that many pre-owned of any one item without help, virtually impossible on eBay. It just virtually is almost impossible. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it, but I'd like to meet the person who does and see what their processes are, because that's really impressive. I know people who are pushing up their listings, but they have help. They have help. So, and there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, well, I can't do this on my own. I have to have help. But then it gets, you know, it gets a little more complex. And I think if you're brand new, the last thing you want to do is have somebody sitting here on YouTube saying, oh, sure, you can scale up a 2,000 item store on eBay. Oh, but I forgot to mention you're going to need 30 hours of part-time help a week to do it. So that's the part they don't mention. And the reality is that is what you might end up needing for a lot of people. So I just don't think that's a good way to go. So if you pin me down and say, what's the best platform of these two for a new seller to start on? Overall, I'm going to say it's Amazon. I think Amazon gives you a greater chance to succeed because the other reason, or the other set of reasons it gives you a better chance to succeed, scalability is a huge one. You can scale it to $100 a month or $10 million, whatever you want to do, which you can't really do that on eBay very easily. Not that it's easy on Amazon either. I'm not implying it's easy, but I think that you're able to sell through items at a much faster pace than eBay. Amazon has more shoppers. It has faster sell-through within the same item on either platform, and they typically sell for a higher amount. There are more fees on Amazon as a percentage of an item's cost. That is true, but I think it makes up for it in velocity and ease of sell-through. And the warehousing ability through FBA does make up for it, because if you told me, all right, if you sell this item on eBay or you sell on Amazon it's going to cost you $1 more to sell than it does on eBay, but you're going to be able to sell 100 more of them per month, and you're going to net $1.25 more on each one. Well, I'm up. Like that's a profit. Yeah, it's costing me more, but I'm making more and I'm selling through faster and it's easier to list. So I just think that for that reason too, if you want to sell through and sell at a higher price, Amazon is a better choice for a lot of new sellers. I don't know why people say like they're afraid of it sometimes, or I hear that in the reselling community, or it was complicated. It's no more complicated than eBay. I find eBay incredibly complicated in certain parts of it. Their back-end infrastructure and their reporting and so on. Oh, don't get me started. I mean, they've made some improvements over the last couple of years for sure, but it's just antiquated. Some of the ways that some of the things you can do and can't do on there, it's not simple. There's a lot of the fee structure on eBay is confusing. Because there's so many different tiers and levels to it. They've tried to clean up some of that to their credit. And I think, that's a move in the right direction. But I just think that, if you're brand new, start out on Amazon and try to find replenishable type items that you can sell. Obviously, those are not going to be the items in your house. If that just isn't your cup of tea, and you get down the road several months, you can always be like, oh, well, I'm going to go back to I'm going to go sell on eBay because I don't like selling 50 of these blue cups a month. I want to sell one of these tape dispensers a month. Okay, well, that's fine. You can do whatever you want. But I just think that for most people, you're going to be able to, the ease of listing, the faster sell through for the higher amount, the ability to warehouse your items, and the ability to replenish items and sell multi-quantity listings is superior on Amazon to eBay by miles. It's not even close. And I keep going back to this example. You're going to find, I mean, I have a friend who, you know, she's probably, I don't know if she's quite at retirement age. I don't want to say that because she'll get mad at me maybe, but she travels around the Southeast, not even a big area, like usually sometimes overnight trips, but usually a lot of day trips from her home base, and just does retail arbitrage in these stores. And, you know, and she has a list, like she's old school, and some of you might know who she is. I would describe all this, but she's old school. She has a handwritten list that she'll have in a notebook. I love it. About like, I'm going to go to these stores and I'm looking for these, you know, these 12 SKUs, and I'll just buy as many of them as I can. And she is doing, you know, a few $100,000 a year on Amazon, you know, basically as she's not part-time. I don't think I would describe her. She's more full-time at it, but she's just a one-woman show. And she's, you know, she's just out there alone, doing it herself, shipping from the road, and just killing it. And I've seen her grow her business over the last year or two, and it's just been so inspiring to see and so exciting. And when I see that, I'm like, wow, that is really cool that one person can go out and just do that. And she's not the only person. Don't do it, Rex, because you know who I'm talking about. And she's not the only person like that I know that does this on Amazon. That's almost impossible to do on eBay. I'm not going to say it's impossible because I wouldn't go that far, but it's just so difficult. First of all, you would have to warehouse all that stuff. And I don't know how many items she sells through in a year, but it's probably in the thousands, I would imagine, at her level. Has to be in the thousands. Which means at any one time, she'd have to have, you know, maybe a couple thousand even in her home, which is obviously not ideal if you're trying to run a business and run out of your home. Trust me, as somebody who's had, you know, over 1,000 jeans and a few hundred shoes and all here in this house, it kind of sucks, guys. I mean, I'm going to be honest. When you have to start warehousing all this crap in your home, you're going to find that the distinction between your business and your personal life gets very blurry. You either feel like you're always at work or you're always at home. You know, I mean, it gets really tricky. And I admire anybody who can run a business out of their home and do it successfully, because it's not easy to do, especially one like we have where you're reselling and you've got inventory, you've got an office and supplies, and you got to process things. I mean, it's tricky. It's not easy to do. So being able to warehouse is just so much easier when you can do it that way. And I think she would be the first person to tell you, like, there's nothing special about her. I mean, there is things special about her, but there's nothing special about her and what she's doing. Like, she's just applied what the platform has allowed her to do. And for so long, I kind of resisted, thinking, well, you know, I'm just going to keep beating my head against this rock and do it over here. I don't know. At some point, I just sort of woke up and said, I'm not going to do that anymore. Just seems dumb. And that's not to say that selling on eBay is dumb. I'm not suggesting it at all. I'm just saying that if you want to, if you're a one-woman or a one-man show, which most of you watching this video right now are, I guarantee you are, because I've heard from so many of you. It's just you. It's not even your wife or your husband or boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever with you, or kids. I think that you know, you have to think about, how am I going to give myself the best chance of success? And if I got one platform over here, whereas one person, I could realistically sell you know, $200,000, $300,000 a year on my own, and I got one over here where it's going to be, I might sell 50,000. You know, which one gives you the better chance of success? I think it's kind of clear. You know, and if you think Amazon is tough or you think it's complicated, you know what? I'm just going to tell you, figure it out. You know, like, you're smart, you can do it. They're all tough and complicated in their own way. It's not like eBay's just super easy or Poshmark is super easy. I mean, there's nothing super easy about any of this stuff. Like, figuring out what to sell and how to get it and how much to pay for it and how much of it to get is always going to be tricky. Like, every business struggles with that. You are not alone if you're always concerned about, well, how much should I buy and what should I pay for it and how much should I sell it for and what should I buy? Every business has to worry about that. You're not any different than anybody else. But I just think that you need to really think about, like, what are your goals with this? If you're a brand new reseller, maybe you've been reselling a while, what is your goals? And, you know, when Kaaren and I had the discussion about, you know, what our goals were with this, we realized that, like, the path we were on did not meet those goals. It did not meet that those objectives. And there was no way it was ever going to meet it. There's no way we're going to lug around a couple thousand pair of jeans or shoes, or it just isn't. Like, it's just not, I don't know. It doesn't make sense when you really stop and think about it. And I think so many people out there in reseller land, and a lot of newbies fall in this trap. They go out and buy an awful lot of inventory and they list a little bit of it. And then they realize this listing part kind of sucks. It's time consuming. And it's hard to get the photos right and the lighting right. And I don't know what to put in the keywords. And those are all real concerns. And you can figure them out, don't get me wrong. But for a lot of people, they never get past that part. And meanwhile, while they're listing 10 items a week, they're buying 50. And all of a sudden, they wake up one day with a whole spare bedroom full of crap. And most of it's not listed. And then they get depressed or upset or down on themselves or angry or whatever it is. So I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, because it's so hard for them to sort of monetize all those items, because buying the item is part of the work, but there's still, like, once you buy the item for eBay, more of the work is left than you've done. There's more work left than what you've accomplished. Like, buying it is like 25% of the work. There's still 75% of the work. Looking it over, taking the photographs, listing it, storing it somewhere, packing, shipping. You've got 75% of the work still ahead of you. And a lot of people never get past that buying part. You're like, oh, look what a great deal. I bought this for $2 and I can sell it for 18. But you've only done 25% of the work. So I think that's where a lot of people get caught up, and they just never get past that point. Somebody said Ty Lopez commercials are back. Yes, Ty should give me a cut. But I think that, you know, if you're new, consider going the Amazon route first. I'm not saying you're going to be successful at it. I'm not saying you're going to kill it and you're going to make, you know, you're going to sell $50,000 a month worth of product. Those things are a ways down the road. There's a lot of steps between here and there, but I think you give yourself a better chance to be successful overall on Amazon for all the reasons I laid out in this incredibly long-winded video. Anyway, we're coming to the top of the hour, but I probably missed a couple comments and questions here in the thing. Reseller Rambo said, what is up with all the thumbs down? You know, Reseller Rambo, when you tell people what they don't want to hear, most people don't really internalize it and think about it. Most people just react and say, I don't like that. So that's cool. Let's see. Guy on YouTube went on a weekend shopping trip for Monopoly for millennials, found like 180 at Walmart's for $25 each. Immediately listed his merch field, sold 130 of them in 24 hours at $60 each. Sold 2 on eBay over the same period for a lower cost. Wow. I don't know the validity of that story, Thomas. I'm going to assume it's true. It doesn't really surprise me. The sell-through compared to these two platforms is not even close. It just isn't. And that's just, it's the way they're designed. It's the way Amazon gets pushed up in the Google rankings. I mean, it's just lots of reasons why it's not. It's the prime, you know, bump that Amazon gets from people who have Prime memberships, all those things. I think I did hear something about that Monopoly game, but I didn't realize that somebody did that. Let's see, what other comments? A Seam Store says, my wife helps a little. I appreciate so much. I know, just like even the littlest bit of help is so amazing. Kaaren helps a lot, so I appreciate a lot. Not everyone wants to crush it on Amazon or eBay. Some enjoy the process. Yeah, that's true, Connie. And you know, you're right. And if that's who you are watching this video, then that's what you should do. You know, just enjoy it. But if you do have designs, I'm like, I think I want to use this as a part-time income, and I need it to be substantial, whatever that means to you. Or maybe you have designs to like, hey, I just lost my job, and I'm going to do this full-time. I'm just going to start right now. I don't know why I just did a snap. That was weird. But then I think this video is for you then, because you need to be able to hit the ground running and go quick. Like we were just saying, like in the Monopoly example is a good example. Like if you went and bought 10 of those and sold 2 of them on eBay over a period of time, you'd be like, woo! But if you sold all 10 in like 2 hours on Amazon, you'd be ecstatic. You'd be like, yes, I need to go buy more games. Millennial Monopoly. There we go. We're going to tank the market right here with this channel. Millennial Monopoly, I declare, will now be a race to the bottom. Yes, but he invested more time than the 22 hours looking for the games. Of course, Rambo, he did. But you know, that's the thing. Like when you find one, you can keep going to other stores if you know a store chain that has it. The key is to start building a list like my friend does. I was telling you about how she does. Like she's like, I'm going to go to this store and these 6 SKUs are in this one. So I'm going to buy all of them they have of that. Of, you know, this SKU, I'm going to buy all of them, this one. And then I'm going to go to that store again over here in another part of town and buy all 6 of those SKUs, all of them they have. And then just, you know, that way you start building some volume. That's the beauty of Amazon. Connie invested some time looking for those games. Yeah, I wish I had. Let's see. How is the warehouse? The warehouse is great. It's almost empty. I can't wait to show you guys photos. You have no idea. You have no idea how good it's going to feel to empty that warehouse. Although we're talking about filling it right back up. With what, mind you? More to come on that. So we'll see if we do that or not, but I don't know that we'll do that. We're talking about Krillin. Thank you so much for the super chat earlier. I didn't shout you out, my man. Do you still sell jeans? What are you selling now? I am still selling jeans. I am not sourcing any jeans. I still sell about, I don't know, maybe 10, 12, maybe 15 pair of jeans on a week, something like that sell. So yeah, they're just kind of gradually dwindling down. I'm down to like, oh, I don't know, 500 and some probably, somewhere in there. Guru You Diploma. I know, right? I Am Not Your Guru. That was a good show on Netflix if you haven't ever watched it. I'm going to scroll back, see some of these. You're one of the best. Thank you for all your knowledge. Thank you, Juan. That was very nice of you to say. I don't know that I'm one of the best, but I appreciate the compliment. How much for the blue cup? Well, Aaron, normally this cup sells for $2.99, but for you, $3.99. That's a steal. eBay is much easier to understand for the newbie. I'm going to tell him, oh, Rex. Yeah, whatever, Rex. You, Mr. Amazon. I don't think it's any easier. I don't understand why that myth is out there. Like, easier how? Is it easier to learn how to take good photos? No, it's not. Is it easier to learn how to write a good keyworded title? It's not any easier. Those are 2 things you don't have to do on Amazon for new items. Like, you literally don't have to do them. It's already written for you. All the info is in there on an ASIN, usually like the UPC and model numbers and dimensions and things. Like, all that info is already there for customers to see, for buyers. On eBay, you have to put all that crap in on your listing unless you copy somebody else's as a sell similar, and then you're depending on them to have it right, which they might and they might not. So I don't think it's any easier. Like I don't know how this. I don't know why people say that or how this rumor has gotten started, but I just feel like it's not any easier to sell on eBay than it is Amazon. I think it's a myth. I think it's easier to not take it as seriously on eBay than Amazon. I do think that. Rex says it's easier to get paid. Well, I don't know. I mean, I know Amazon does the 2 weeks thing. PayPal, you can get out, well, you can't get it out right away if you're brand new to PayPal. They make you wait. So that's actually not accurate. If you're brand new, they're going to make you wait a while before you can get your money out to make sure the person got the item and that you're not scamming somebody. Amazon, I like Amazon that they deposit right in your bank account. Like, how simple is that? eBay has always had PayPal or a third-party payment processor. So you got to send it to PayPal and then use that to pay for things, or else send that money to your bank account if you want to use your bank account. Amazon deposits in your bank account. Why can't eBay do that? Why is that so hard to figure out? Like, you put in your routing number, you put in your account number, boom, they ship it right to your account. Done, fini, over. I don't understand why eBay can't do that. Like, to me, that's 21st century. Like, what they're doing is like 20 years ago. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. PayPal is great in a lot of ways. By the way, though, if you have PayPal and you're running your eBay business with it, your accountant's going to hate you. Mine hates PayPal. He's not going to hate you, but he's going to hate PayPal because it creates a lot of complexity, especially if you're running something like QuickBooks or so on. Like, all of a sudden now you got like this other bank sitting there called PayPal, and it's just matching up transaction. Oh man, it's a pain in the butt when it comes to tax time sometimes. So I don't know. Amazon wants to take away your account for any small infraction. Well, eBay can too. But yeah, I mean, Amazon right now, that's not always been the case, though, Connie. I would say Amazon has gotten hit with more counterfeit stuff over the last couple years. So they've definitely cracked down on some things. But then again, they've let up on others. Like, people are getting approved for things they never got approved for in the past. It's just always evolving and changing. Like, I think that's just the market. Like, I think eBay will come to that point. Like, they have the Vero program where people can get suspended, and I've had a Vero complaint or two over the years for various things, and, whatever. I don't think there's anything to it, but it doesn't matter. And, but yeah, I mean, you can get your account suspended on eBay too. I don't know if it's any easier or not. It might be harder on eBay to get suspended. It probably is. Marshall says, does your new business model interfere with your plans to travel? I know that was one of the limitations of selling jeans. No, actually it doesn't, Marshall. I mean, anything you can send into FBA on Amazon, you could do from the road. That was one of the reasons we moved more towards this, because we realized that, if we want to travel and or if we want to live on the road, hit the RV life, there's no way we can do that tied down to an eBay inventory. It's just not possible unless it was something very small that would travel with you, like jewelry or postcards or something like that. I don't know where Duncan's at, but he would tell me I need to sell postcards. But no, Amazon allows you to do all that. It actually makes it simpler because now everywhere you go, I don't know if you can write off all those miles or not. I'll have to talk to Jared and see. But, if we travel to Salt Lake City and source for a while and then send some stuff in, we could probably write off those miles. If we happen to pop up to Yellowstone right after that, I know Kaaren's listening, then maybe those miles are deductible. Probably not. But anyway, let's see. A couple more questions. I got to get off here because I've actually got another call at 8 o'clock. I have boxes and boxes of brand new Tupperware, no SKUs. How can I list them on Amazon? I currently sell on eBay only. Well, what you could do, Ellen, I'm not an expert on Tupperware by any means, but what I would recommend you do, Ellen, is you go to Amazon, and I would just start with the search term Tupperware in the search. And I would just try to find those items. And I don't know if you'll find them or not, but they're probably pretty standard sizes. Maybe they have different designs or fits to the lids or whatever you have. I don't know. And you just try to find the item itself. If you type in Tupperware, you're going to get a bunch of results. And start scrolling through and see if you can find them. And if you can find the exact ones, then you could list them right on it. You don't have to take any photos or anything. You're good to go. You just have to decide if you want to sell them merchant fulfilled or send them in. Probably merchant fulfilled for something like that, I'm guessing. I don't think it really makes sense to send those in necessarily, but maybe it will. I don't know how much they sell for. How much do you keep for yourself? How much do you reinvest? How much do you put away for taxes? Say after 2 weeks of sales, if this is your way of life. I love those questions, the way you word it. If this is your way of life, if this is even your way of life, he says it like, I'm sure he didn't say it that way. But, well, I mean, you have to keep enough to pay the bills, right? So most resellers, including me, will pay ourselves just like a nominal salary that, and talk to your accountant or tax expert, that if you're full-time, you should be paying yourself a salary. That's just reality. If you don't, you could risk, you know, like if you're incorporated like I am, you could risk your corporate status by, you know, the IRS could say, well, you're really not a corporation. You're just a person, you know, selling things. And because you're not collecting a paycheck, because I'm employed by my company. Like I'm the only employee, but I employ myself. So you set it up and you set up a payroll, and like every week you take out, you know, amount of money and you withhold for taxes, and, you know, you do all these things that, you know, the hoops that the government makes you jump through. And it sucks because it's a lot of hoops, honestly. But there are advantages to being incorporated and being an employee as well of your own company. And again, talk to your tax expert for all that. I'm not here to give you that advice, but ultimately you pay yourself a salary is what most of us do. And it doesn't have to be a salary that, you know, is some huge number, or it just needs to be reasonable, is my understanding of the law, that in the IRS's eyes, like it needs to be a reasonable salary for somebody in your field. And you can talk to your tax expert to find out what that might be in your area, your case. But so, and you know, and hopefully you have enough every 2 weeks or month or whenever you get paid to do it. So that's another argument for another video. So yeah, the use of the warehouse for suppliers. You're doing kind of the consignment thing. Yeah, we do have some consignment items still there, Marshall. So we are consigning some items as well. That's a cool thing about consignment. You could just do that going forward. Like you don't even have to have a warehouse for that. You just have to have space. And you know, with consignment, you've taken away some of the time sucks. You still have to list things, but you've taken away the capital constraint and you've taken away the time to source the item, because your consignee has or your consignor has actually done that for you. They've spent the money on the item and they've spent the time. So you don't have to do that. You still have to make the listing and then pack it and ship it when it sells. But it does have some advantages of taking some of that off the table. James grew to 25,000 listings on 5 platforms. Man, James, one day you and I are going to have to sit down and have a chat. I just got to hear how you did all this. So you should come on this show. But Amazon, he says, Amazon's easier, but a new seller, if you screw up one time, you may lose all. Well, that's always the case. You know, I mean, you're playing in these platform sandboxes. You know, if you read certain websites, which I'm not gonna name them here. There's one in particular I'm thinking about that hates eBay with a passion. You'll hear horror stories on there. People getting suspended, losing their account, can't sell, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's always the way it's been, guys. I mean, there's always those horror stories out there. I don't know if it's more prevalent on one or the other. It might be. It could be, for sure. I don't know for a fact either way. But ultimately, you know, it's their sandbox and it's their rules. And if you don't play by those rules, they'll kick you out of the sandbox. You may be allowed back in. You might not. But, you know, that's always a risk, you know. So you just got to do everything you can. I have a friend of mine recently who was at the dentist, and he got this call on his phone while he was literally having his teeth worked on, and he couldn't answer it. And after he got out of the dentist done, he got this email from Amazon saying that they'd had like all these multiple copyright claims, or no, they weren't copyright. Maybe they were IP infringements. I don't remember what it was. It was one of the claims. It was bogus, but you know, the company or whatever got mad. Who knows? And they had suspended his account temporarily, and because they couldn't get a hold of him, literally in that moment, they, you know, and Amazon doesn't call you that often. It was just poor timing. Like if he'd been able to talk to him, it would have been fine. But because they weren't, they just went ahead and acted because they were like, well, maybe he's ducking us. Because Amazon's kind of in the middle between all these people, guys. Like they don't know, and eBay's the same way. They don't know really what the truth is. I've had good experiences with eBay. I've had bad experiences. I have a good experience with Amazon. I've had bad experiences. You know, they both can be very frustrating at times. That's for sure. But it's the life I've chosen. It's the business I've chosen. So I don't know. So we'll see how it continues. But all right, guys. Well, listen, we've been going for a long time here. Thank you so much for you guys showing up tonight. I appreciate it. Leave me a question or comment down below. Check out the description for some helpful links. We'll be on some more book stuff and some other stuff over the next few weeks and so on. But I thank you guys for showing up this impromptu night, and hopefully we answered some questions and, you know, gave you some food for thought, if nothing else. But I will see you guys real soon. So as always, this is Prof Sales saying good sales to you.